Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council of the City of San Bruno to order for its meeting of October 27th, 2009. I'd like to begin by thanking the San Bruno Garden Club for the floral arrangement they've presented for this evening's meeting. If we could have roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell. Here. Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Mayor Franzella.
Here. It should be noted for the record that Vice Mayor Ruane is absent this evening with notice, as is Councilmember Ibarra. Announcements. The Project Pride Committee announces that thank you. The clerk is motioning that she's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Project Pride Committee announces the annual Halloween Parade, which will be held this Friday, October 30th, at the shops at Tanforan, beginning at 3:30 p.m. Also, the 13th annual Coats for Kids program is collecting clean, gently used coats and warm sweaters for distribution at the Volunteer Firemen's Hall at 618 San Mateo Avenue on Thursday, November 19th, from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. For more details, you can go to the city website. And following this evening's meeting, there'll be a San Bruno redevelopment meeting. This evening, we have a few presentations. The first is a presentation by the High Speed Rail Authority on the status of high-speed rail. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much. My name is Dominic Spaethling, and I'm the regional manager for the High Speed Rail Authority here, responsible for the section between San Francisco and San Jose. And what I thought I'd do tonight is give you an overview of the project and talk specifically about where we are in the environmental process in regards to the clearance of the 50 miles of the California high-speed rail system between San Francisco and San Jose, which is part of a larger system, which I'm now going to talk about. And I invite you to interrupt me at any time during the presentation if you see something that you'd like to talk about or ask a question of. First of all, just to put this in context, while the study that we're currently involved in is for the 50 miles between San Francisco and San Jose, it's just good to keep in mind that this is part of a larger statewide system that is almost 800 miles in total length, and an initial section that is about 500 miles between San Francisco and Los Angeles and Anaheim. The intent is to serve all the major metropolitan areas in California and to have a travel time between San Francisco and Los Angeles of less than 2 hours and 40 minutes. Where we are, or over the last few years, a considerable amount of work has been performed by the California High-Speed Rail Authority in sort of what we call sort of a proof of concept that a high-speed rail system actually makes sense for the state of California. And frankly, it was just about a year ago, in fact, I came to these chambers and gave a presentation with Rod Diridon on high-speed rail. And it was right before the November election where Prop 1A was on, which was a $10 billion bond measure. And that passed, and that has really given us what we call the down payment on the high-speed rail system for California. And that money also allowed us to get, is this still on? I just want to make sure, okay. That really gave us the money to really initiate detailed environmental and engineering work for the statewide system. With that, we launched into a project-level environmental analysis, which began in the beginning of 2009. And over the last 10 months, we've been going through a process of scoping meetings and taking all the information. We received over 950 pieces of correspondence about this, just our 50 miles here, and thousands of comments, and are now in the process of putting together what we're calling an initial list of alternatives for the system that will go into an alternatives analysis. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. The goal here is to have an environmentally cleared system or section of the system done by the fall of 2011. These boxes represent sort of major stages in the environmental process, and the one with the yellow around it, the initial project alternatives, is really where we are right now in the fall. And right now, in this winter, we're going to be really going into the alternatives evaluation stage. This 10-stage process looks a little convoluted, but nonetheless, it does actually work out. This is all the steps that we go through as we develop the alternatives for the high-speed train system. And what I would say is, you'll see in September, what we have done is taken all of the information that we got from scoping, created a list, or a first list of alternatives for San Francisco to San Jose, and I'm going to show you one in just a minute for this section of the line, and sort of shared it with the public, the stakeholders. And in fact, I'd like to recognize that, Councilmember O'Connell came to our policymaker working group on October 15th. And, we really think it's critical that we get input not only from technical staff, which has been represented by your staff here, but also the policymakers understand what's happening with this program. And then the public. We've held 3 public meetings, one in San Mateo County at San Carlos, one in San Francisco, and then one down in Sunnyvale. And all were very well attended, and a lot of folks came out with questions and a lot of interest in the project. And so we're taking all of that information and using that to help us define this system. This is an overview of the corridor, and I don't expect you to be able to see all the different squiggly lines and the various colors, but what this represents in an overview sense is all the different design options that we have for the Caltrain corridor, in that some of it will be in a tunnel, some of it will be at grade, some of it will be elevated, and we're analyzing those different options up and down the system. Specifically here in the San Bruno area, you'll see, and hopefully I can make this work with the mouse, or maybe not. Oh, there it is. You have, frankly, one of the more unique sections of the railroad. What this bubble represents is an area where we are assuming that the San Bruno grade separation, which is not in place today, is in place by the time that we come to constructing the rest of the high-speed train system on the Caltrain corridor. So we're actually considering the San Bruno project, the station and the grade separation, as what we would consider sort of part of the no-build description, and that we just want to make sure, we would want to put the tracks or make sure that everything is compatible with what is currently planned there. So that's what this bubble indicates, that's what will be in place. That said, to the north and to the south of the line, we still do have some grade separations that we need to take care of at Scott Street and Linden Avenue. The goal of the system from San Francisco to San Jose is to make it fully grade separated so that there are no at-grade crossings where cars, pedestrians, and trains are in the same plane, so to speak, so that people can either safely go over or under the railroad tracks, or likewise the roadways go over or under the railroad tracks. As we move into the alternatives analysis, which is happening this winter, there are oftentimes questions, well, how are you going to differentiate the different alternatives or the different design options? I might just go back. You'll see here, perhaps in the Millbrae area specifically, right now we have 2 options on the table as to whether we would run the train at grade, sort of just to the west of the existing tracks for Caltrain, or would it be better suited to put those high-speed train tracks in a below grade or tunnel solution? And the question I often get is, how are you going to compare those, and how are you going to make some sort of level of analysis that might go on to the detailed evaluation? Likewise, here at Linden and Scott Street, we could either elevate the railroad and put them over the existing streets, or we could take the streets and put them below grade and underneath the existing railroad. these are the type of options that we're looking at throughout the corridor. And this gives you an idea of how we're going to at least do an initial assessment of the pluses and minuses of each of these types of alternatives. We'll look at whether the land use is supported by these, the constructability. As you know, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to keep Caltrain operating throughout this entire process. Neighborhood compatibility, you know, property displacements, either full property or partial, and environmental issues such as visual impacts, noise, biological. All of these things, at least at a cursory level, are going to be looked at as part of the alternatives analysis. This is sort of a schedule, just again re-emphasizing the fact that we're working on getting the full environmental document. Sort of as we go through the alternatives analysis process this winter, in February or so, we'll start the detailed engineering and really looking at much higher level of detail at engineering and environmental, where we'll actually go out and do field work and do that through basically 2010 with the goal of having a draft document out on the street at the end of 2010, early 2011. I want to also just let you know about next steps or next meetings that we're having and opportunities for public involvement. We're sort of launching a context-sensitive solution workshop where we're really encouraging the cities to get involved with the design and the evaluation of these alternatives. And we're going to be holding a meeting in November 4th, 2009, that's next week. It's going to be hosted by the City of Burlingame, and there's evening session from 7 to 9 where you can learn about sort of the context-sensitive solution, or CSS process as it's known, and find out how the city can be, you know, City of San Bruno and other cities and agencies and the public can get involved in that. And again, the draft alternatives analysis is due out publicly in December. We hope to meet with your city staff before then with some, you know, initial results. And I'd also just like to say that Mike Garvey here to my left is the outreach coordinator for San Mateo County, and he's been working very diligently with the city here to develop a sort of a customized outreach plan, and he's going to be coming back in the next couple weeks, months to describe that to you and look for your endorsement on that. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions.
Any questions from council? Okay, hearing none, appreciate you coming and giving us an overview. It's always helpful, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
That will move on to item B, present proclamation declaring October 23rd to the 31st as Red Ribbon Week in the city of San Bruno. And I have a proclamation that I'll present this evening to Officer Tony Perkins. You just take a minute and read some of the whereases here. Whereas illegal drug trafficking and abuse continues to be painfully visible throughout our nation and is the most serious problem our cities face. And whereas the illegal drugs are responsible for the loss of livelihood and life in every community in our nation, and whereas the cost of fighting the war on drugs has grown steadily and is outstripping the ability of local governments to maintain anti-drug efforts, and whereas neighborhood support is our most effective weapon to reduce the demand for illegal drugs and drive away the suppliers, and whereas the National Federation of Parents established National Red Ribbon Campaign for a Drug-Free Youth to create awareness of drug problems, develop parent and community teams to combat illegal drugs, and promote drug-free lifestyles for America's youth. Now therefore, I, Larry Franzella, Mayor of the City of San Bruno, do hereby proclaim October 23rd to the 31st is Red Ribbon Week in the City of San Bruno, and encourage all citizens to wear red ribbons throughout this week. Let me present this to Officer Perkins.
Hello, I'm Officer Tony Perkins. I've been with the department 5 years, just over 5 years. I'm currently assigned as the school resource officer for our department. And part of that job in that description is Red Ribbon Week and coordinating with the schools. I order the ribbons and coordinate with them to distribute the ribbons to the students and the teachers and other faculty. And this year we actually distributed just under 3,800 ribbons to all of our schools. In 1985, DEA Special Agent Enrique Caramina was killed in the line of duty while investigating drug trafficking rings in Mexico. In that same year, a United States congressman and some of Agent Caramina's friends got together and started the campaign with the red ribbon signifying leading a drug-free lifestyle. And that was started in his high school alma mater in Calexico, California. In 1988, the campaign went national. The DEA formalized the campaign and had Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan as the co-chairs, honorary co-chairs. So with that, I'd like to thank you for recognizing this important national campaign in our city of San Bruno.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This evening, we also have a proclamation which declared October 17th as Arbor Day in the city of San Bruno, and I'd like to present this to Randy Schwartz from with the Park Department, and he'll talk a little bit about the program.
Thank you, Mayor Franzella and council members. I appreciate the proclamation recognizing San Bruno's commitment to Arbor Day. This year, as part of the planting of Arbor Day, there were about 40 volunteers, mostly some of the Cub Scout packs that were out there. In addition to the regular Arbor Day plantings, the Summerhill homes and working with the Summerhill Development Group, we are planting over 100 trees in the city in October and November, and we'll have them all in before the winter rains hit, so Mother Nature can help us make sure that they get a good start. So thank you very much for this recognition.
Thank you. Item 5, review of agenda. There's nothing to be moved. Item 6, approval of minutes. Special council meeting of September 29th, 2009. I would just like to pull those minutes and ask if they could come back to us. I don't believe that the minutes captured everything up to the council conversation and content, and if we could just bring those back at a later meeting for approval would be appreciated. The regular city council meeting of October 13th, 2009, the minutes will stand approved as submitted unless there's any changes or corrections. Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved. Consent calendar, all items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action may be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion unless requested by council member, citizen, or staff. I would like to pull item D. Anything else to be pulled?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I pulled item D. This was to accept a letter of resignation from Personnel Board Member Jeannie Garcia. I just wanted to pull that and publicly acknowledge and thank her for her contributions to the board. And it's also asking the City Council to declare a board member vacancy and direct City Clerk to initiate the process for appointment. I would move its approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. There are none this evening. Public comment for items not on agenda. Individuals are allowed 3 minutes to speak. It's the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Is there anyone wishing to address the City Council? None. We'll move on to item 10, conduct of business. Item 10A, receive quarterly financial report as of September 30th, 2009 for the 2009-2010 General Fund, Special Revenue Fund, Enterprise Funds, and Capital Improvement Program budget. And Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, it has been the Council's policy on a quarterly basis to receive updates on the budget and in particular the General Fund, for the city, that the general fund has been the fund of greatest concern over the last several years for the council. Just might remind the council, and probably don't need too much reminding of the difficult choices that the city council needed to make in approving the current year's budget. Back in January of this year, the council reviewed the financial condition and the budget similar to what we're doing here in the first quarter. And as a result of that, made adjustments to last year's budget and developed strategies looking at the current budget that was ultimately approved on June 23rd. The economic crisis that the country has been in, it's hard for me to think in terms that the impact really occurred or began occurring visibly in many sectors in September of 2008. Seems like it's been a much longer duration to me. And the crisis has had a number of impacts on revenues and on the budget here in San Bruno. Just a couple of the major impacts is that the assessed value has actually declined in San Bruno for all residential properties. Overall, there's been about a 2% decline in assessed value in 08-09. The county has confirmed that. It's been years since there's been a decline of any size year to year. Assessed value is one area that you would anticipate increasing. Foreclosures are obviously higher today than they were 24 or probably even 12 months ago. So the impact is that property tax revenue has declined, and that was anticipated in this year's budget. A second area is taxable sales have dropped pretty significantly, and just have a couple of statistics to show you that the top 10 businesses in San Bruno are down 24% in sales since 2007. Our auto dealers are down 53%, and the department stores at Tan Fran are down 8% since 2007. That's not to say there are some individual businesses that are doing quite well and benefiting us, but again, to show the magnitude of the sales tax problem, just wanted to demonstrate that. Hotel tax revenue has been declining each month for the last 9 months. Prior to that, to put it into context, it actually went up 16 months in a row, to show you how the economic swing can be, and it obviously leads to the question, well, when did these 9 months of decline taper off and the trend reverse? The other budget impact of the crisis, and this is indirect to us, but as an impact of the impact on the state, is the state's plan to take about $1.9 million in tax increment monies from the city's redevelopment agency. That doesn't impact our general fund, but the redevelopment agency revenues and budget is a significant component of the city, and that is clearly impacting just the city's overall operations. Just wanted to point out again where the budget losses, revenue losses for the general fund are. Again, property tax is significant. Sales tax up in the range of about a little over $800,000. The hotel tax less of $51,000. So when you compare the 08-09 budget to 9-10, there's about a $1.4 million reduction just in those three areas. I did want to point out that what we're showing here for 08-09 was the original adopted budget. And again, as I indicated last year, we recognized that there were going to be budget reductions, and in all of the areas that are asterisked there in the 08-09 budget. there was in fact budget amendments that actually changed the anticipated revenue even last year. And just wanted to point out significantly in departmental revenue, planning and building revenues, you see the reduction of about $1.5 million. The original, again, that the 1.5 is the original budget. The amended budget last year was $1.1 million. So if you're just comparing the amended budget for last year to this year, the reduction is a great deal less. Just in looking at the general fund and some of the individual revenues, have described to the council how property tax, sales tax, and motor vehicle monies, which are significant revenue sources of ours, used to come primarily, aside from property tax, to us on a monthly basis and could be somewhat measured incrementally over the course of the year. Now, and the low percentages that are shown here for the first quarter for property tax, sales tax, and motor vehicle are all based on a majority of those funds come to us with our property tax. This is part of the triple flip arrangement that the state approved, changing the way we receive revenue. So majority of those revenues won't be received for the first half of the year. They won't actually be received until after the property tax payment is due December 10th. I did want to mention again the very low percentage on property tax. We anticipate at the end of the day the city will receive will receive our budgeted property tax, but there would remind the council that the state is borrowing $829,000 of our property tax this year. The city council recently took action to participate with the statewide effort where this taking by the state for property tax is actually a borrowing, and the city is, and the city council's given direction to sell the receivable through a bonding arrangement that will allow for the city to receive the $829,000 back this year and not have to wait for the 3-year period where the state would be making the annual or the repayment of what they're taking this year under the requirements of Proposition 1A.
If we can just go back to that slide. Business taxes, you're at 71%. How far behind is that from where we consider would be? I mean, they're all due, so you should be much closer to 100%.
The business license or the business tax item includes the Sky Park also. So the business license themselves, you're correct that they're actually due July 1, but there are other things included in there that are spaced out, and I believe I think at this time last year we were at 72%, so 71%. So yeah, I would mention just the economic conditions that we're all aware of. I might mention that delinquencies in utilities, in business license, it is at a higher level than it has been typically, but one would sort of expect that with the economic environment.
And missing that the Sky Park was
Yeah.
in there, that it pays quarterly. It's not as alarming as it was looking at it, thinking that it's everything that was due in July 1. So.
Right. Again, the departmental revenues are a significant portion of the budget, of the general fund budget, at nearly $5 million out of the $30 million that we anticipate. Again, generally looking at the revenue percentages compared to last year at the same time, they are very close and in line, and again would expect that the revenues from departmental activities are on target. Expenditures for the first quarter were exactly at 25%. They were exactly at 25% last year. It was 25% of a higher number last year. Our planned expenditures were about $33 million. At this time last year, they're about $31.5 million this year. So it's 25% of a smaller number. I just might mention there are a couple of department areas that are slightly higher, not greatly higher than the 25%. Engineering is one of those. They're showing at 33% this year. The reason for that is we budget our annual assessment to CCAG in the engineering department, and that is the reason that throws that to the higher percentage at 33%. And recreation also is one that tracks both last year and this year at a higher than 25%. And again, in part, that is the demand for part-time salaries in July and August for the summer programs that the department provides. So there's a little higher intensity of activity in the first quarter than over the winter and other quarters. Redevelopment, you can't see it from the slide, but from the staff report you can see that there are significant differences between the budget for both revenue and expenditures comparing last year to this year, and really that's a basis for an accounting change where we are now budgeting for all of the pass-throughs that are paid to the taxing agencies in San Bruno. Those are no longer being netted from the revenues. So if you look at the revenues, they're up. If you look at expenditures, they're up significantly, and that's really just an accounting change that we are implementing with this year's budget. The internal service funds and the enterprise accounts are all absolutely consistent with the percentages from the prior year. Again, would reinforce that we are on target for this year's budget. So I think really the bottom line is that a first quarter snapshot of the budget is a very preliminary look. It's difficult to say with certainty the implications of revenues and expenses in the first quarter. We have no data that would show at this point that we are anywhere except meeting the budget plan for both revenues and expenditures. I might mention just on the sales tax side, and again, the percentage is shown a little bit low in the report. In addition to our own tracking of sales tax, we also retain a firm that primarily aids us in making sure that we actually collect all the sales tax that we are due in the course of a year. And they track our sales tax. They track all of their clients' sales tax over a longer period of time, and they're getting data from the state board that we tend not to be able to really analyze. They came out with their most recent data several weeks ago, and they would term our sales tax projection for this year, based on what they know today, they would term it optimistic. Their perhaps more likely estimate, based on the trend that they've seen, would be about a $100,000 reduction. But it's still within the realm. I mean, again, they would now say our projection is optimistic, but it's not, again, at a variance that they would suggest any amendment to where we are. So I think the actual data that we have at this point indicates, again, that the budget's on target. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions the council
Questions from
has.
council?
Through the chair.
Councilmember Martina?
I have two questions. First one, I'll just take one at a time. Understanding that this is a snapshot, and so it's kind of hard to figure out the big picture in the end. What is your best judgment on where we will end up at the end of this budget cycle?
I would say, again, we have no reason on hard data to believe that it'll be any different than the budget as it was approved. I mean, one of the items, again, that we don't know is Measure F on the November ballot is an increase in the hotel tax from 10% to 12%. That is on the ballot in a number of cities here in San Mateo County. That the passage of that would generate probably about $100,000 the second half of this year. So that is an item, you know, depending on how that goes, or how the public responds to that, could dictate. But other than that, I would say that I believe that the revenues, we will, at this point, I believe the revenues that we're anticipating we will receive, and that the expenditures, again, to adhere to the expenditure plan and the reduction in positions, as long as we adhere to that, we will continue to have a balanced budget by the end of the year.
Then looking forward into, since staff usually starts to begin work on the next budget cycle, the 2010-2011 in January, where do you see, or what indication do you foresee us being when we start embarking upon that? Where we'll be at revenues versus the expenditures, and how we'll be doing?
I would, you know, with the recognition that it's early this year, I think revenues next year, I mean, at this point in time, I see nothing in a trend that would indicate the prospects that we will have any greater revenue next year than we do this year. Now, there's some indication that we're right at the point where the recession is ending. You know, this is nationally. It is, because it's hard for me to believe that property tax, for instance, is going to change dramatically. So I don't know that the assessed values are going to come back quickly. I mean, I think the whole discussion of jobs and how jobs are going to fit into the economic recovery probably makes it a little problematic for us. I think the council's talked for a number of months that this is not a one-year problem that the city is really going to face as far as the revenue expenditure balance, and I'd say that's true for next year. I mean, I see I see nothing that would indicate that there is going to be anything dramatic revenue increase next year. I would say the pressure is going to be on to hold down expenditures in order to continue a balanced budget. I mean, there's a couple of areas next year and the following year. There is some built-in increase that will likely happen related to retirement costs for employees. We have been very fortunate the last 2 years. Health premium, the city's share of the health premium has really grown far less than we've seen other cities and in other regions. So that's been very positive for us. So I think there's going to be pressure for some expenditure increases going forward, and I don't see that there's going to be revenue to really match that. So I think it'll be a challenge. It'll be every bit as challenged for next year as this year.
And then the only thing is, after we have the second quarter figures, and I know that staff will come back, I really believe, in addition to just going over the PowerPoint presentation, I think potentially, depending on how that comes out, I think the council, with my recommendation, would be that we really sit down and analyze the budget, see where we perceive we're going to end up, to see if there's going to be a shortfall, if there's anything we need to look at. Obviously, November 3rd will have passed with the Measure F, as you indicated, and I think we need to take a hard look at where we truly are at 6 months into it, and with 6 months to go, and so that we can start planning ahead, since staff starts to work on it in January as well, but to make sure we can balance at the end of June 30th.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, adopt resolution approving first quarter budget amendment for the 2009-2010 General Fund, Special Revenue Fund, Enterprise Fund, and Capital Improvement budgets. Mr. Leary.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, again, a companion action the council has been taking for the last several years is after receiving the financial update, the council has also been presented a budget amendment for the first quarter of the year. Again, the planning and the development of the current year's budget really started in March of last year in earnest, a lot of discussion beginning in January. But it's tough to anticipate everything that is going to occur in a fiscal year when you're planning at 6 months and number of months before. So periodically there are changes to the budget that are just required. There are a total of 10 line items in the resolution recommended for adjustment. 8 of the items come directly from actions the council has taken in the first quarter of the year, where in awarding the contract, there's some difference between the budget. There is buying the equipment for the night in the park, the movies, the night in the park, that was not anticipated. The council approved the cable commercial data and voice project for enhanced services through the cable department and to finance that purchase, and that was not in the budget. So those are the items, and again, 8 of the 9 directly reflect council actions over the last 3 months. The other 2 items are, one of them is adjusting the police overtime line item budget, reducing it by $50,000. This was an offset that the council directed. The original budget anticipated that there would be savings in the police budget through a furlough program, as other employees in the city, all other employees in the city are engaged in. That appears not at this point not to be the case. So the council had directed that there would be other savings in the department if that furlough did not occur, the furlough savings did not occur. So that's reflected in the budget. And the only other item was actually an error on the finance department's part in the building and facilities budget. We left out accidentally the gas and electric and garbage charges for City Hall and the library. It's been in the budget every year. It was a $60,000 item, and somehow that was
I didn't catch that.
Inadvertently left out. And I have a couple of bills sitting on my desk that PG&E and others are expecting getting paid. So this would amend that budget to provide for the annual allocation. So those are the items that are included in the budget amendment. I'd be glad to answer any questions the council has.
Questions from council?
I was just going to note that you made mention of the equipment for film night. That was funded through the Public Art Fund, but also this investment was also going to be, in the end, a savings for that ongoing program that has been very successful in the park. If there's no other questions, I'll introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell. Aye. Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item C, adopt resolution authorizing city manager to execute professional services agreement with Anil Verma Associates Incorporated for review of Caltrain grade separation project plans in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Clara?
Just some technical difficulties here. Honorable Mayor, Council Member, what you have before you tonight to authorize us to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with the consultant for the review of the grade separation project. The purpose of this review is to support the city with the aggressive schedule on the San Bruno grade separation project. How you had the presentation a few times already before you, this project is under a very aggressive development process with the intent to have a final design by January of next year. To ensure the city needs are met and that San Bruno is reviewing the project properly and San Bruno is represented in our collaboration with JPB in a very effective manner based on prior need. The city engaged PBS and J for peer review of the design documents in the last 3 months. They performed the job, but based on the agreement, and they did a great job reviewing and making recommendation to the city and to JPB. But to a potential conflict of interest between PBS and J and the high-speed rail project, they needed to decline further collaboration with the city for this project. In order for us then to be able to meet the aggressive schedule on this project and also to utilize the already existing knowledge of the project in that design team, the city contacted Daniel Verma Associates, who has one of the team members, the same designer who was part of the prior design team, and can represent and can take further the prior gained knowledge of the project. Also, the location of this consultant will facilitate being located very close to the consultant HNTB for JPB, will facilitate a very effective collaboration between those two consultant firms to review the further phases of the design of the project. And also that this type of expertise is relatively limited expertise in the design industry, and you don't have too many choices with a consultant firm who had very extensive experience in rail transportation design. How I alluded to this previously, the scope of the work, in essence, is to review the remaining design work related to the grade separation project. The intent is for the total cost not to exceed $50,000 estimated at this time. This consultant is not intended to support us during the construction phase of the project. This specifically targets the design phase only. As you recall, you graciously approved through your prior action a CIP budget for this project of $250,000 based on the prior engagement of PBS and J. Already the city spent $24,950 from this allocated budget for this project. This additional commitment for this consultant firm to review until the final design phase, this project will be still remaining $175,000 in our budget. Our recommendation for you tonight is to authorize the city manager to execute this professional contract. If you have any questions.
Questions from council? Action from council.
Through the chair.
Councilwoman O'Connell.
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm glad this is happening. I think it's a crucial time in San Bruno that these plan checks be done in a very professional, thorough manner, because this is going to be, the project's going to be there for years and years, and we really want it done right. So with that, I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Receive oral report on status of public emergency at 1200 block of Montgomery Avenue and confirm continuation of public emergency. City Manager.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as I reported to you at the last city council meeting, on October 8th, I used my authority as Director of Emergency Services to declare an emergency as a result of a failure of a sewer line in the 1200 block of Montgomery Avenue. That action followed information being provided to me by staff that several AT&T utility vaults in that region, underground utility vaults, had become filled and contaminated with sewage. The analysis conducted and reported to me by staff clearly and strongly demonstrated that there was a high probability that this contamination and inflow to the utility vaults was due to one or more breaks in the adjacent sewer lines of the responsibility of the city. As I reported to you previously, all of the discharge into those utility vaults was properly handled, and there was no flow of raw sewage to contaminate local waterways. That being the case, the leakage from our sewer collection system lines still creates a violation of NPDES and local regional water quality control board requirements, and is a significant issue in the city's operation of its utility system. In order to quickly, address this situation, I used the authority of the emergency declaration process and directed staff to quickly locate and mobilize a contractor who had the capability, both timely and properly, to initiate repairs to the system. And my report to you tonight is that those repairs were initiated on October 13th, and they are proceeding well. To date, the main line repairs have been nearly completed, and as part of that process, 2 manholes which had experienced previous leakage have been replaced with concrete pours so that they are now stable and operating correctly. The system, the main line, has remained in operation throughout the construction period to date, with staff coordinating with the contractor and utilizing our emergency sewer line bypass system, which was an initiative funded by the City Council a couple of years ago. During the reconstruction, as I reported to you previously, we would be looking for additional leakage and breakage in the laterals that connect to the main line. And in fact, that investigation has occurred and has demonstrated a significant problem with virtually all of those laterals. In total, there are 30 of them. So as a result of that investigation, staff has directed the contractor to proceed with replacement of all 30 of those lateral lines. At this time, that work is progressing, having begun yesterday. The estimated cost of this work remains within the guideline the amount that I reported to you at your last City Council meeting, and that is up to $150,000. I have now executed a contract with West Valley Construction Company in the not-to-exceed amount of $150,000 with a project completion date of November 30th. I do not have a better estimate for you at this particular moment about when the construction will precisely be completed, What will occur under the procedural requirements of this kind of emergency situation is that you will receive a report from me at each of your next city council meetings until the emergency situation is fully and finally completed. At this point, I estimate again that the work will be completed by the end of the next month, and that shortly thereafter it will be appropriate for me to return to you with a final action to conclude that emergency situation. With that, I would be happy to answer any immediate questions.
Questions?
Through the chair, real quick,
Councilmember
the 30
Regina?
laterals that you referred to, is that within the scope of the $150,000?
Yes.
Okay, so the initial 150 was taking care of the manholes, the laterals, in addition to the other issues that you brought up at the last council meeting?
That is correct. Our estimate to you was not exceeding $150,000. Actually, staff reports to me that the estimate from West Valley was $140,000. So we are still expecting that that work will be fully completed within the amount reported to you previously.
Thank you.
Do you need a vote on this to confirm
I
the
do.
continuance?
Thank you. I do need a vote by the City Council to confirm the continuation of the emergency.
Okay. Is there a motion to confirm?
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item E, adopt resolution authorizing city manager to execute all documents necessary to apply for and accept Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, Lifeline Transportation Project grant funds.
Mayor, council members, I am gladly asking you to authorize the city manager to execute the documents to receive the Lifeline Transportation Program grant funding from the MTC. The Lifeline Transportation Grant Program is funded by state bond funds from Proposition 1B. Mainly the grant goal is to improve the mobility of the low-income residents, and the fund are distributed through the MTC, but the selection is made by SBCATV. As part of the round 2 of this Lifeline Transportation grant funding, this time was available a $735,000 available to the whole San Mateo County. And I can proudly report to you that out of 700 available, over 400 was approved by SBCATV for the city of San Bruno. And I really want to take the opportunity to thank and to congratulate the department in collaboration with the Senior Center for the very hard work invested on those applications with creative thinking to make the city be successful applying for those very specific type of funding, and to be able to bring back to the city this level of grant funding, of course, based on the city manager and your prior direction to all of the department to be very aggressive and to try to bring any additional funding to the city to support the financial health of the city. The city submitted, how I indicated, 3 grant applications. One for the purchase and replacement of the shuttle bus for the senior center for a total grant funding of $100,000. The second project is a replacement of the sidewalk and the installation of new bus shelters and ADA ramps at various Samtrans bus stops location. The total grant fund is $201,000. The third project is the installation of pavement sidewalk and accessible curb ramp around Bel Air School for a total of $151,000. The shuttle bus for the senior center in essence, will contribute to the replacement and upgrade of the existing 98 20-passenger shuttle bus, subject right now to very frequent breakdowns. As part of this application process, the city made a commitment to formalize the existing 3 stops of this shuttle bus. One at the village senior housing project at the crossing, the other at the Walgreens Pharmacy, and to the senior center. For the second project, improvement near bus stops, as part of the grant application was included to replace damaged sidewalk and installation of wider sidewalk and new ADA ramps at various locations to improve accessibility to Samtrans bus stops. Also was included in our application to install up to 10 solar-powered bus shelters and benches to improve the safety around the city. And also, this really will enable the city to do more work on 2 already existing CIP project included in our CIP plan and budget for sidewalk repair and ADA curb. Those are 2 separate CIP projects existent in our budget. The third application is for improvement around Bel-Air School. As you recall, from our budget approval process, this is already an existing CIP project for traffic calming improvement at Bel-Air School, included in our budget. This grant application basically pretty much mirrored the description of that CIP project included in our budget. The overall fiscal impact of this application, this grant, will be as follows. For the senior center shuttle, the grant will bring an additional $100,000. The local match commitment made through the grant application is a $70,000 commitment in-kind operating and equipment replacement fund. For the sidewalk improvement grant application, the grant what will be approved by MTC is the $201,000. The commitment for local match made in the grant application was a $40,000 in Measure A and gas tax and RDA funding. This for the Bel-Air School, the grant will bring for the grant Bel-Air School grant application, the grant funding will be $151,000, and the local match commitment was $30,000 in Measure A, gas tax, and RDA. Mainly, how I indicated previously, this new grant fund will replace the existing appropriated Measure A funds included in our budget, and those funds can be reappropriated next year depending on the timing of when this funding will become available. And then basically that Measure A funds can be used for other purposes as part of our budget process next year. I will add one element to this, that as any 1B funding is not certain the timing of when, even if MTC will approve this funding for these three projects, even then it's a little bit uncertain of the timing when the city will receive these funds. Depending exactly when those funds will become available, then the city can make decisions how to replace those existing funds included in our budget, or to add to those funds to increase the number of ADA ramps or the number of sidewalk repair, how many sidewalk repair the city will be able to perform this year, knowing that the city is already under a existing contract with a contractor who is performing that job for the city. At this time, I would like to recommend authorizing the city manager to execute all of the documents necessary to apply for these three grants to MTC, if you have any questions. And I have here also Randy to help me with any answer if you have on the senior bus.
Thank you. First off, I think the staff really needs a big congratulations. When you look at some $533,000 being spent in the whole county of San Mateo of the available state funds, and nearly 80% of it is being spent in San Bruno, that's from some very hard work on staff's part. You see only the city of San Bruno and the city of Pacific are receiving any portion of these funds. I think staff's really to be commended. It's not just that they sent in a letter and said, put me on the list. It's a lot of hard work that got you there, and it's much appreciated by the council and by the citizens. And any other questions from staff?
I do. With the senior bus, what kind of bus are you looking for? Are you looking for a biodiesel or?
It is a biodiesel bus. It is also lower to the ground in the front part of the bus than the existing bus, so the seniors will be much easier for them to get on the bus in wheelchairs, walkers, so that you walk onto the lower level straight on, and then to the back portion is to step up. So not only is it biodiesel better for the environment, it's also much better for the seniors and allows them much easier, comfortable use in transportation.
Excellent. And I'd like to echo what the mayor said. I serve on the CCAG board and the CMEC board. Both have to approve of these applications, and it's tough to get all the money that you've gotten, and I know staff work really hard. This is not easy stuff to do, so I want to thank you too.
Through the chair, very quick, just on the senior bus, appreciate as well, has been echoed, the staff and their work, and the monies that it saved and what it brought to the community. On the senior bus, it was a concern of mine because I believe we allocated $90,000 for replacement, and I didn't feel and do not feel it was going to meet the needs of our mature population. And I think this grant helps to achieve that goal and ensure that they're satisfied and they're serviced in the way that it's dignified and the right way for San Bruno to treat everybody in this town. So that is a big relief to me that we're going to get a bus that works for everybody and that the seniors feel is best suited for their needs.
Okay.
And I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye. Item 11, reports of commission, boards, and committees. There are none. At this point, I'd like to recess the city council and call the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency to order. If we could have roll call, please.
Agency Member O'Connell. Here. Agency Member Medina.
Here.
Chair Franzella.
Here. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 8th, 2009. The minutes will stand approved as submitted unless there's any changes or corrections.
No.
Hearing none, minutes will stand approved. Consent calendar, there are no items. Public hearing, there are none. Public comment, it's the agency's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state laws. For anyone wishing to address the redevelopment agency? Seeing no one, we'll go on to the conduct of business. This is adopting a resolution approving the first quarter budget amendment for the 2009-2010 redevelopment agency budget. This is information that was gone over in the presentation at the city council meeting by Mr. O'Leary. Any questions from agency members or action?
Introduced resolution?
Roll call, please.
Agency Member O'Connell.
Aye.
Agency Member Medina.
Aye.
Chair Franzella.
Aye. Redevelopment agency will adjourn until the next called meeting at a determined time. Comments from council members? Any comments from council members? Okay, if not, the city council will be going into closed session. The city manager and the human resources director request a closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6 regarding direction for labor negotiations with the San Bruno Police Bargaining Unit. There'll be no reportable item to come from that, and this evening, following that, we'll adjourn the meeting, and if we could have a moment of silence in memory of a member of our community, Mr. Pat May, who was a member, Board of Trustees of the San Bruno Park School District and very active in the community for a number of years. Excuse me, Mr. Gene May. I went to school with his son, Pat, so Mr. Gene May. If we could have a moment of silence in memory of Gene. Thank you. And the city council will now be in closed session.